Hello, good evening and welcome to Prime Business. I am Pius Kojobaka. And look now at our stories. Business groups are mounting pressure on government to come up with innovative ways of enforcing the tax laws to open more businesses into the tax net. Their concern is coming at a time government has indicated that it will be heavy on tax compliance measures in the 2025 budget. Now, speaking to Joy Business, Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chona Mapelu, said the right infrastructure must be adopted to ensure businesses in the formal and informal sectors of the economy pay the right taxes.
Several huge mansions all over the city of Accra, they are not paying taxes. Most of them, not that they don't want to pay taxes, but nobody goes to them for taxing. Look, I have a friend in East Legon. He lived all his life in the US. He's back home. He's been asking how he can pay his tax on his house. And as of today, nobody goes to his house to collect tax. So we would like to see the infrastructure put in place to collect tax from all of these real estate owners and so on. And if we're able to do that effectively, that will be one of the surest ways to mobilize money. Enforcement using the Buga mechanism have not worked. Coming to lock our offices and all of that is never worked. So there has to be a more innovative ways of ensuring that people comply. We are going to be engaging GRA on this Friday and other government officials about how best to have this done. But we are sure that once the systems are put in to ensure that everybody within a tax network is able to pay tax, that's one of the surest ways.
Very well.
That system, government has to think through and create it. And we're happy to support in making sure that it works.
On his part, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, called for a simplified tax system to enhance compliance and revenue collection.
So we are talking about enhancing the education. That's all that now we are going to do to enhance it more. Because it is, everybody knows that we have the responsibility and we are liable to also pay our dues to the government. Everybody knows that. But it's a system that is debarring people from doing the right thing. I've said that we have to make systems very simplified and very affordable as the government seek to do. When they are doing, they're able to do that, it is a major hurdle that government have cleared. And then the rest is how, because if taxes are affordable and simplified, I mean, you have solved about 60% of compliance. And then the rest will be the enforcement and then the monitoring and the education that we have to come in to help Ghana Revenue Authority to do that. I've said that thresholds, we should be able to remove all thresholds and limits that will also serve as the gray areas for people to want to dodge, using the limit as a scapegoat to dodge the taxes. So it's not as simple as that you have to just reduce some few taxes and you say that you are coming on to enforce on compliance.
All right.
It will not work if you haven't built the necessary systems that I'm talking about. And that's the more reason why we even have to engage government to let government know some of these gray areas even before they come out.
Away from tax matters, the Bank of Ghana has announced that it has started auditing remittance activities from the 1st of October 2024 to December 2024. And this was contained in an official notice released by the Central Bank today. I'd like to share with you the statement released by the Bank of Ghana to that effect. Pretty soon they shall come on your screens. There you go. It reads, Audit of Remittance Activities, Q4 2024. The Bank of Ghana is conducting an audit of remittance transactions covering the period of 1st October 2024 to 31st December 2024. The objective of this audit is to assess the remittance process and to provide recommendations to strengthen the existing regulatory framework. In addition, the audit will evaluate compliance with all applicable regulations, including the Foreign Exchange Act 2006, Act 723, the updated guidelines for remittances, the Payment Services Act 2019, Act 987, and the Anti-Money Laundering, Combating the Financing of Terrorism guidelines. It goes on to say all market participants are reminded of their obligations to comply fully with these regulatory requirements. Strengthening adherence to these guidelines will enhance the remittance ecosystem promote transparency, mitigate risks, and contribute to the overall deepening of the foreign exchange market. And this is, of course, signed by the Secretary at the Bank of Ghana, Sandra Thompson. I want to stay a while longer at the central bank because they have continued to increase the amount of dollars that it sells to commercial banks in the country. There is more in the following report. The Bank of Ghana has been heavy on the market in terms of dollar support over the past 3 weeks. It has also been consistent in terms of the timelines for carrying out the required auctions for commercial banks. For instance, on Tuesday, the Bank of Ghana, through the 7-day auction, announced that it was going to sell some $60 million. However, official results showed that only $49 million were taken up by the banks. This has led to some arguing that not all the amount supplied has even been taken up by the market, signaling less dollar demand over the past 2 weeks. The cedi's performance has also been complemented by improved dollar supply from the interbank market, as well as some dollar inflows coming from the offshore investors that are participating in the second bond market. The cedi is currently trading at 15 cedis 80 pesos among the forex bureaus, down from the over 16 cedis a week ago. Some have also argued that if the cedi is able to withstand the first quarter pressure, then we could be assured that the outlook will not be that bad for the rest of the year. I want to stay a while longer on the economy because senior finance lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, Dr. Siriam Kawo, says it's too early for government to re-enter the local bond market. The government strategy includes issuing a 2-year bond alongside releasing a revised medium-term debt management strategy and an annual borrowing plan. Now, speaking on the marketplace, however, Dr. Siriam Kawo said government must be cautious in order not to lose investor confidence.
The timing at now, for me, is too early for government to start looking at the bond market, especially the domestic bond market. We have had some assurances from government that they are going to fulfill the coupons and the amounts that are due this year. But then this same government that is going to the capital market to borrow is taking some actions that will not inure to the benefit of the investors in terms of shares. The same domestic market that they are going to use to borrow for 2 years is the same market that they will go and raise money in terms of shares for government entities and companies that are listed on the stock exchange in terms of GOL and SIC. And so for me, government needs to look at how they are going to get these things done carefully so that the confidence that we require investors are hoping to get from the promises that they have made to fulfill the debt that we have, they need to look at it. It's a good thing for government to come out with the issue of the sinking fund to make sure that these debts are paid in time. But what happens to the issue of fiscal discipline, reduction in government expenditure, making sure tax compliance is well enforced to raise the needed amount of money? Yesterday, I had an interview with the morning show, and I stated that, yes, it's good that these things are coming up, but we also need to make sure that we have the full confidence of the investors to go into the market. What kind of assurance will government give us that in future there will not be any debt exchange, or the debt exchange has come to stay with us? And for that matter, the bond indenture that they are going to raise would specify how the bonds are going to be restructured from time to time.
Let's now talk insurance, because government has finally given its approval for insurance companies to go ahead and implement the 10% increase in third-party tariffs. There is more in the following report. Joy Business is learning that the approval was secured last week. This was after the former Insurance Commissioner, Michael Kofi Andor, briefed the Finance Minister, Dr. Kaseel Latuforsen, about the need for the tariffs to be reviewed. Based on this development, all the insurance companies in the country can go ahead and charge 10% motor insurance premiums. the National Insurance Commission was forced to suspend the implementation of these tariffs from February 2025 due to what it describes as some industry concerns. However, some of the players did not heed to the directive coming from the regulator and went ahead to charge the new tariffs. They now have the necessary regulatory approval to charge these new tariffs. But there are concerns about the impact of this development on purchase of insurance products, especially when it comes to motor insurance. To the energy sector now, and the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies Ghana says it will be petitioning the government through a white paper on concerns of unfair petroleum pricing regime in the downstream sector. According to the Chamber, this has been a setback for the industry as many investors are forced to compete unfairly with other markets. Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Riverson Opong, disclosed this to Joy Business at the closing session of the Downstream Dialogue here in Accra.
We want the government to intercede, engage the industry players. It was indeed a very practical, I would say, policy that came into being. And the regulator has done its part for so far, making sure it's being implemented well. But for the past year and two, we do have a lot of challenges adhering to the zonalization of the country. And when our white paper come out in the next 2 weeks after the conference, it will be the number one for sure, no doubt. And at the end of the day, we want sanity in the industry. We want to have a fair pricing regime where we have an organic industry where the industry players will determine what price. Because at the end of the day, we are deregulated. Why do I need to bypass Konongo from Tema to Kumasi and another BRV go to Kumasi and bring the same product to Konongo? I mean, that's a double counting. And I'm asking this question. If today, Boss refuses to take fuel from Tema to Kumasi, and my members, the oil marketing companies, do so from Tema to Kumasi and to the north, what happens to the primary distribution margin that is charged at the depot? Regardless of Boss not doing its job, we still charge regardless. So I believe it's high time we review holistically the zonalization and also the issue of implementation of CRM.
Longer in the sector, stakeholders in the renewable energy sector are making a case for government to consider solar-generated power into most of the state ministries and office buildings across the country. In a research conducted by the Brew Hammond Energy Center at KNUST, most of the respondents believe that government's adoption of renewables like solar in various sectors of its operations will boost confidence for more people to adopt the system. Director at the center, Professor David Atukwansa, has been explaining to Joy Business at a workshop to communicate the outcome of the research, which was centered in the real estate sector.
It's important that government also leads the way. Government is a huge entity with its agencies. And so if government projects are integrating solar, then it gives the technology a credibility boost. So we were quite happy when we heard that the ministry is intending to do solar at the basic and senior high schools. So if you imagine you have these schools with solar all over, it makes the technology more credible and its capabilities, are better demonstrated. Ghana has committed to what we call the net zero emissions policy by the year 2070. There's an allied document that's more ambitious, looking at 2060. So the renaming of the ministry to add green transition demonstrates some level of seriousness that we may be seeing in the next couple of years, and we think it's exciting.
Prime Business, we have more for you after. Hello again, welcome back to Prime Business. Executive Director of the Ghana Gold Expo Foundation, Dr. Stephen Aka, has questioned the effectiveness of some agencies within Ghana's extractive sector, particularly the gold sector. According to him, lack of proper coordination is stifling the growth of the sector. He spoke to Joy Business's James Ishen.
Looking forward, there's a new act going to come up. We want to see what they're going to clearly stated. But the operational framework has to be established to allow the full impact of the gold for oil.
Now, on the back of that, what do you make of the news out there with the new government saying he intends to review this particular policy? What do you make of it?
Yes, I think it's a good. It's a good point. For now, we can't talk much because they just formed a legal committee to bring out the program in place. Once the legal committee is done with their work and they submit to Parliament for the bill to be passed, that is why I think we can now come in and speak, because by then we can now say, okay, fine, why don't we look at the existing policies that are in place, the things that the previous government did, what you also want to do, and we cannot look at. But as I'm saying, we've seen that formalization has been key in the sector and it's still not there, because the major problem that have occurred in the good for oil or in the good for FX has been formalization, because BOG is doing something different because they are the pioneers, they're allowed to do that. PMMC also want to do something different. How do you call it? MAF is also trying to do something. So at the end of the day, you see that everybody is, the whole program is scattered. However, if you look at the World Gold Council, it clearly states that the domestic purchase program can be used as an alternative for swapping. It means you can even do gold for fertilizer. You understand? Because you have Cocoa Board. Cocoa Board has syndicated loan available. So why don't you use some of the gold to collaborate with, Cocoa Board, and instead of bringing fertilizer, you can even pay, because most of the fertilizer come from Dubai. Okay. You understand it? Because it's clear. But I think the point we have here is that formalization has not been our practice. And that is why the Gold for Oil program is gradually, we are not seeing the impact. But if the current government bring out the legal committee and they invite the key institutions who look at policy, we can now look at it and come out with proper operational framework that will support the Gold for Oil.
Now, the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Sam Nati-George, has announced that the ministry is committed to addressing the legal framework surrounding misinformation and disinformation in the country.
The issue of misinformation and disinformation is a critical thing that we're going to be looking at as a ministry, because most of the disinformation and misinformation you see is being carried out on digital platforms. That falls under our purview. We're currently undergoing a review of legislation, and once we are done with a review of legislation, we will be putting before Parliament a robust legislation on misinformation and disinformation that would allow the legal framework for us to clamp down on fake news. We're not going to be clamping down on free speech. Free speech is certainly going to be protected as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution. However, what we are going to do is clamp down on premeditated misinformation and calculated disinformation that is aimed at misinforming the public and driving the wrong sentiments in the public. So yeah, the ministry is working around that. There's going to be a team that's going to start working on that very soon as part of our larger legislative framework overhaul in the ministry. And so we're hopeful that before the middle of the year, we would have gotten to a place where we're ready to put before Parliament the legal framework. Because you see, it's not about just shutting down the accounts, it's about stopping the creation of the fake news and making sure that when the individuals who have made this their stock in trade, the law catches up with them, they face the full rigors of the law. When there are consequences, it acts as a deterrent for people who are willingly and gleefully engaged in mis and disinformation.
And that's your Prime Business for tonight. I am Pius Kojo Baka. We have more stories for you when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Razak Musbao is next with Prime Sports.